Thank you.
Afternoon, good evening to you.
Bishop.
Thank you for doing this live
To the
broadcast. Welcome
esteemed
back.
Christian leaders and members of the
Fifth Injustice Network.
Let me say we are extremely excited to be here today to share with you and to participate in this significant dialogue. I bring you greetings from the Liberia Revenue Authority, specifically from Commissioner James W. Jala, the Commissioner General of the Liberia Revenue Authority. Let me start by saying that taxes are the foundation of every nation. They are the bedrock for a wholesome, functioning society. I must say that we will never aspire to our greatest hope, dreams, and aspirations as a nation if we do not commit to paying our fair share of taxes. Many times we have to run from our country to go to other countries for health care, even to get good, sound, basic education, because we have not committed to being loyal to ourselves and to our country. When we travel to other countries, we enjoy the amenities and everything they have to offer. Some of us didn't have the capacity to stand in front of some of their tallest buildings and wonderful structure and take pictures and display on Facebook.
Thank you for joining us.
But one thing we fail to realize is that those things are only achievable when nations commit themselves to paying their taxes and holding their government feet to fire for the money that they give them to provide the services that we need. And so we are really glad to be part of this. The commissioner would have loved to be here. Unfortunately, he had prior engagement and couldn't make it and asked us to represent him. We hope we can step in his shoe. We'll never be like him, but we hope that we can do the best we can to provide the information that you need. We have two presentations. Tomorrow we'll be participating in the panel. But today what we want to do is to specifically focus on the churches. What churches needs to know when it comes to taxation. We've already talked a little bit about a few of those during the discussions that just preceded this. But we go through and give you some insight into what you need to know as you run your churches and faith-based organizations. So, what type of taxes are in Liberia? In Liberia, we administer, the Liberia Revenue Authority administers 7 kinds of taxes. Okay, the Liberia Revenue Code, which is the Bible for taxation in Liberia, has 7 kinds of taxes that we administer as an institution. The first one is the personal and the business income tax and royalties. The personal income tax is what we're talking about. If you are earning and working, you are supposed to pay your PRT, your personal income tax. Businesses also pay income tax. The fund or the bank? Is it possible to increase the fund? You can see? So maybe why don't we come a little, for those of you in the back, there are some seats here, in the coming in front a little bit. Because if we increase the fund, I'm going to be going up on the yeah. If you can see in the back, there are seats in the front. Please. All right, proceed. And then we have the goods and services tax that we currently call GST. And let me just say, the government, we drafted a regulation, it has passed into law. We will be eliminating the goods and service tax very soon, replacing it with what we call value-added tax. Okay, yeah, throughout this country. It's actually in many of our, in fact, actually in the West African region, we are the only ones still using GST. If you go to Sierra Leone, Nigeria, or any other country now, they are using VAT. And in Europe, for those who have traveled there, VAT is the one that's being used. So pretty soon, we will eliminate, in fact, it's actually being administered in the way, but we haven't done the publicity that it needs. So But just remember that before this year, GST will be completely low.
What will be the difference between the GST and what you have mentioned?
Okay. The difference is with the VAT, everyone along the production chain pay taxes. That's the main thing. In other words, if a logger, right? If I'm a logger, when I plant my trees, I will sell it to John, who is a carpenter, right? The taxes will be collected between those two transactions. When the carpenter fix the chair and sell it, taxes will be collected as well. So everyone along the production line pays taxes. Okay, that's the major difference between GST and who's exhibiting tax. But ultimately, it's the consumer that pays the taxes. That's the final aim. But the way the taxes are collected will be a little different. Everyone will participate in the chain. For example, now if you order your goods, when it comes in at the free port, you who sell for the goods, you pay the taxes, right? Okay, but with the GST, it's going to be a little different. Everyone from the entry point all the way to the end, everyone pay taxes. But in the final analysis, just like the GST, it is still the consumer that pays the taxes. And there's something we call in taxation cascading and whatever in taxes. We'll explain that another time. But all of those will be escaped. You know, everyone will pay along the chain. But another good part is you also get a refund. They have input tax and output tax. But when VAT come along, we'll be able to explain that during all about awareness and education. But we just know that it's going to be replaced. And then we have excise tax. This tax is imposed, sometimes somebody talked about luxury goods yesterday, and also gambling and liquor and cigarettes, because we feel that they are, or the society feel that they are harmful to our children. So they put excise tax on it to carry the price up, so that people who have the habit, they will have to take extra from their pocket. Hopefully, it will deter them from using it. That's the excise tax that is imposed on certain products or certain goods. And then we have the custom duties when you import into the country. And then we have the real property tax. Okay. And then we have government agency fees, such as maybe passport, driver license, and so forth. And then we have the obligatory payment, require pricing order money, and corporate agreements, and so forth. But these are the taxes that we pay as a nation, that is promulgated into law, that we pay in these are the 7 kinds of taxes. So taxes on churches. Churches are obligated to pay withholding or salaries. I think I talked about that earlier when we were having the conversation. So if you have a church and you have employees, maybe your secretary, the sweeper, or whoever you employ there, they need to pay the personal income tax. That's what we call PIT. Everyone in the country pays personal income tax as long as you are within the threshold. If we get to the threshold, I will show you that later. And then we have withholding or service render. So if the church contracts with someone who is providing services to the church, they have an obligation to withhold. Okay, they have an obligation to withhold the taxes, the service render tax from that contractor and remit it to LRA. Some of us, we hire people to do a lot of big stuff in our churches, but we never withhold the tax from them, which is 10%, right, for resident and 15% for non-resident. So you become an agent of the government. You have to withhold that from contractors that you give contracts to provide services for you. All right, so that's an obligation on the churches, but the church itself does not pay that. But if they hire somebody to provide those services, they have an obligation to withhold that tax. And then we have withholding on rent. Okay, withholding on rent. So for example, if a church, has a building, right? You have a building in your compound and it is not part of your asset. That's actually a business. Separate a little bit from your church activities. You are using that for commercial practices. So normally, the way the law works is, if I am the landlord, I own the property, and I'm renting Look, let's say the bishop owns the property, then I'm renting from the bishop.
So I get an example for Echo Bank.
Okay.
You know, property will go to Echo Bank to use it.
Okay, so that's what we call a rental property. But the problem is the law here imposes the obligation on the renter to collect the money from the landlord. Okay, let me explain that. So in other words, if I'm renting from the bishop, right? I am renting from the bishop. If the rent amount, let's assume, is $1,000 a year. Okay, before I give that $1,000 to the bishop, I'm supposed to take what? 10% from it and only give the bishop $900. The $10 I'm supposed to ask the bishop for the churches or his congregation's tax identification number and pay it in his name and bring him back the receipt. So in other words, you who renting, the law imposes the obligation on you to collect the rent. And one of the reasons is this, especially for commercial businesses. There are people that come from other countries, right? They come and they give you a house to rent. Okay? You give them the money, they take all the money, they don't pay the renter income tax. When our imposer come out and say, where is the receipt? Say, I don't have to say, oh, I paid the money to the landlord. Who suffers? The landlord is gone, he collected his money, he's gone. Now you who own the business, you know, you don't have no receipt because you didn't pay it. So we say we're closing your business down. This is why the law says you who are the renter, make sure that it's paid so that you are not, your business is not, you know, you don't go through business interruption because it was not paid. That's the renter income tax. Next.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
I would like to come to voting on services.
With voting on services, yes.
This is an entity that has contract and they employ the services of another company already paying taxes to the RA. Would this company have to, you have to pay 10% of that of services rendering to that company again for payment to the RA?
All right, very good question. The difference is that business registered with the government? Are they a registered business?
Yes, the company is registered.
If they are registered and they are running their business,
Yes.
in many cases they will pay their own taxes free at 2 or 4%. But there are a lot of contractors that are not even registered, they're not even legal entity. They come and we give them contract. They don't even know whether they are registered with the government or not as a legal entity. So if we don't collect that from them, it will never be collected because they're never going to file. But those who are filing, you know, so most of the time what people do is you ask the person, are you a legally registered business in Liberia? And they will say, yes. Can you bring me your business registration or your tax clearance? Then you know that person is a legal entity. You can press add business. In their filing, but you also have to report whatever you pay them for that service when you do your own filing. The reason why the 10% is collected upfront is for a lot of people do their business in their banks and they travel with it, their computer, their this and whatever, they're not legally registered in the license.
Provisional day is very important.
Yes, yeah.
An NGO paying all the taxes, got this contract from this organization, okay, and the organization is taking 10% from the NGO payment to give to the LRA, wherein this NGO are presented the tax clearance and everything. So
Okay.
how do you reconcile that?
Well, you have, if that happens, you can reconcile through your filing. Once the NGO file and they have already paid, it's credited to the NGO. The reason why we want to collect upfront is because many of these people, a lot of them, all like the NGO, a lot of organizations are not registered. People don't do a lot of, contracting, they just do subcontracting and whatever, they're not registered, they're not paying taxes. So if we don't collect it at the time that it happens, we may never be able to collect it again. But if you are legally registered entity in Liberia, you can transact business with them and they can pay at the end when they do their own file. But you got to, I just told you, no, I just told you, when you can pay them, you can engage in contract and you pay them. Whatever the services, entails, the 2% or 4%, depending on their tax category, will be paid through their family. So we're saying the same thing, we're saying the same thing. Once you can ask them, they are legally registered, right? And they have their tax clearance, you can transfer this to them who are taking that business.
So after this, we'll talk again.
Okay.
So, sir,
Yes.
my concern has to do with the withholding.
Okay.
Are you saying that the business owner will subtract the tax from the rent that was charged?
The withholding, on rent?
Yes.
Yeah, well, this is how I can explain it. So I'm renting for you.
Right.
I am the renter, you own the property. The lease agreement says I should pay you $1,000 a year.
Right.
Before I give you the 1,000, the law says I should subtract, I'm renting for you the 10% from the 1,000, and only give you 900. And the $10, I'm supposed to ask you for your tax identification number and pay in your name. I'll give you the original receipt, I keep a copy. Because let's assume it was a business, and I give you the entire 1,000 and you walk away. And tomorrow the LRA comes and says, where is the rental income tax receipt? You don't have it because it was never paid. Who suffers? You. I mean me, because they conclude the business that and it has not been paid. When you are the renter and you pay it yourself, you know it's paid, you have a copy of the receipt. When enforcement comes, you can tell them it was paid.
In case the owner refuses to allow you to subtract the
So I think that's the nuisance of the law, right? That's the nuisance of the law, because some people may decide not to rent to you, but if you went to court, if you took that point, only on the basis of that alone, the court will beg you for the law. Next slide. Okay. So churches are exempt from real property tax. But let me explain that. That real property must be used for the church purpose only, and it should be in the church's name. So the church can have the church building, and they have 3 or 4 houses in the pastor name, in the bishop name, and in the mother name. You know, and you say, oh, that church property. No. The church can own as many property as it wants to, but those property must be owned by the church. They must be registered in the name of the church, not individual. The moment they are in individual name, they are no longer exempt property, real properties. Even land, churches can own land, but it must be in the name of the church and not individuals.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
When some go to our church,
And
some go to our church and they ask to do our business registration. All right.
okay.
And if I come to Iceberg, I decided to pay everything. Does that apply to the church? You know, do business registration?
Business registration.
Yes.
Even if you are a non-profit organization, you have to register as a non-profit entity.
We did, but we still go to the business registration, we pay our business registration.
The business is to renew it. If you have a church, whether it's a church, whether it's a faith-based organization that is a non-profit entity, you have an obligation to renew your registration every year. That's not a tax. That's only registration. You only register in your business to make sure that your business is a legal, if it's a for-profit business or for non-profit business, we want to make sure that you are a registered business or non-profit organization in Liberia. That's business registration. As a matter of fact, that is not really done at LRA, even though we collect the money, but it's done through the Liberia Business Registry.
We are not business now, why should we go to register?
I didn't get you, sir.
We are not business, church.
No, that's what I'm saying. Non-profit has an obligation to register in Liberia as a legal non-profit organization. Whether it's a school, whether it's a church. Okay, the registration is cut across. You are not exempt from registration because you are a non-profit organization or because you are a church. Your church must be registered as a religious non-profit organization. So if it is not registered, then you are not recognized really by the government as a religious non-profit organization in Liberia. So that's why they asked you for registration. They did not ask you for taxes. because they want to make sure that you have the correct status as a not-profit religious organization.
This should be done annually.
It's renewed annually. The registration is renewed annually. Again, it's not a tax. It's a registration for your legal entity to establish your organization, your church, or your institution as a legal non-profit organization in Liberia.
So a church that existed for 100 years.
It don't matter how long it be existing. Registration is renewed every year. It's just for a few months. I think how much is 2,000? 2,000 LD. Reverend John, it's 2,000 LD, Liberian dollar. Yes.
Commissioner,
Yes.
they have to pay for 10 years.
But then maybe you have not been following the law. You have not
You
been.
see what I'm saying to you is, they have to point our conference to where
We have to do what?
point our church conference to where
Please do. I'm ready to go tomorrow.
the reason is,
Yes.
our name put on spoil. They say, the missionary pay the bill. It's what I was saying. So we want to be in compliance.
Okay.
All right, so when I took over, they came to the office and we discussed. The government canceled taxes for 7 years. I think 5. All right, so we were told to pay like for 10 years. All right, and we challenged that. So we went to business registration, and the director there we discussed whatsoever thing there, and the final discussing why I want to circulate it. But I'm saying to you that these things have to be clarified to everybody. You have to have discussion with all entities to know how to do about this. Because we are not churches. We are preparing ourselves to make sure that all the churches in Liberia are in compliance with the government.
And this is one explanation, but it's also important that we do it together. You mobilize your people, even as I stand here today, any church, any denomination that's having convention or conferences and want us to be there, we will be there at our own cost to provide whatever information you need. But you're right, it's a collaboration. So this partnership, I think today is we're just crashing the back today. But we want to really, really be involved. We tried this a few years ago. I had the privilege to do presentation at the William Christian Fellowship, bring your worship service. The pastor allocated 30 minutes to 45 minutes to be a property awareness. Philadelphia Church, they open up their church door, bring their regular worship service. They cost 30 minutes or 45 minutes to speak to their parishioners. So this is that, but so it's nice that we are reconnecting, especially with the faith-based community, to provide all of the information. You're not paying taxes. You are registering your entity in any country in the world, whether you're a non-profit or a business. You have to legalize yourself. By registering, you are telling the government you are a legal non-profit organization or a church. The article, when you go to do the article, that's when you do the registration. The article is one kind. The registration is like you just renew it every year to say that you are still operating as a non-profit in the country. And it's 2,000 LD for the whole year for non-profit organizations.
Commissioner, with exception from Sierra Leone, we are not forced to register as a business. We can register as faith-based or community-based.
Right.
Yeah. Business is a choice if you want to register as a business entity, whether non-profit make your not.
So you don't register businesses?
No, we are not forced. We register as a faith-based.
So how do they know that you are doing any business in Zambia? I don't know.
Because churches are not business.
No, but listen to
You
things
can.
now. No, listen. I did not say churches have to register as business. I never said that.
I know.
I said churches register as a non-profit organization.
Sure, I understand it,
Okay.
but it's not compulsory for us.
Oh, it's not compulsory. Yeah, it is, because how do we know that this church, you may want to ask for the junior privileges, you may want to ask for tax clearance. How we don't have you in the
So
system.
that's why it's the bigger ministries that do that kind of registration. But not
Since we don't know who's coming to us, who's not coming to us, we say every non-profit organization and churches register.
Noted, sir. Noted, thank you.
It's two registration, maybe it's clear, maybe
Yes,
it's two, you can register as a not-for-profit organization.
Absolutely.
You can register as a faith-based organization.
Yes.
So it's optional.
Okay.
If you are not doing NGO business, you cannot register as an NGO, but you can still register as a faith-based organization.
Okay, yeah. So here, faith-based organization is the same thing as a non-profit.
Oh, that's different.
We have one more registration
We have
called,
three.
you can register with corporate affairs.
Corporate
That's
affairs.
the one
Okay.
that's talking.
You can register as,
Non-profit.
what do they call it?
Social welfare.
Company,
With-
company,
by guarantee.
limited by guarantee.
Yes.
A church can be registered as that, because that has more stringent laws, and it makes provision that people cannot just break away and go and start other denominations, because the church has, proper legal structures and things like that. That's why many people go for that corporate one. The question I was going to ask, for us in Sierra Leone, we have church and school in the same compound, and the council, the local council, the government, they send us demand notes every year to pay tax for our buildings. So for instance, we had 2 buildings before. Now we built another one in the same compound. Now they said you have to pay for every building. They are sending us 3 demand notes. 3 demand notes for every building you pay tax for. I said, what nonsense is this? Now they will come and snap. Now the notes they send, they send it with your picture. So this one is for this building. This one is for this building. And this one. I said, we are a faith-based organization. We run church and school in the same compound. So why should we pay? That's in Sierra Leone. I don't know what happens here.
Well, even here we do.
Yes, I maybe I just, this is a learning curve for all of us. I was just saying to him, most of the religious institutions that we are registered in the colonial period, they don't pay tax. Like my own institution of my own, we don't pay that. We don't even have an address. We have a location. Maybe at the location, Airport Road. And you know that this church is located at Airport Road. Our neighbors will be number 2 Airport Road, number 3. But for us as a religious institution, we don't have an address and we don't pay tax. But with this, I don't like to call them new corporate thing. But most of the churches that came after independence, most of them now, the way they register them, it's as if they're their business or private. So they tax them, how they tax other houses and other business. So I was just saying to him that when we get back, we have to check what the law says regarding that. Because like 2 laws operating for the same institution.
So for the building, for us, we do valuation of buildings, especially if it is not. The building is not for your exempt purpose. If you build a hall and you are renting that hall, right, to the public, people can have their wedding, their parties.
No, this is just purely church.
Just a church building?
Church, this
No, everything for us.
The church has one.
Yeah, for us, if it's owned by the church and it's in the church's name, we don't even do valuation on it because we consider it as exempt.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the concept.
Yeah.
So we don't.
Okay, the address, if we do well, we'll finish early today, we're going to go till 5, yeah? So please be aware of that and keep your questions straight forward, yeah?
Straight exercise. Okay.
But how do you know it's presented?
Oh, I'm still presenting.
Okay,
Okay, so why don't you jot down your questions, right? Then at the end, we just discuss it. Okay, so again, churches are exempt from real property tax, also from business income tax, because they're not considered a business, they are considered non-profit. So whatever they get, we believe that they are using it for their non-exempt purposes or something. The church, caring for the poor, caring for the city, and reaching out to the community. So we don't tax those income. Next. Churches and other religious organizations can apply for duty-free. I think some people were asking privileges, but they have to meet certain requirements. It's not automatic to just say, oh, I'm a non-profit, put your hand up. Yeah, I want duty-free. No, there are requirements. We will not discuss all of the requirements, so we'll give you our website. You can go there and get all the requirements. But on the next slide, we'll give you some basic requirements. Number 1, you have to submit a formal letter of request to the Commissioner General. In other words, when your goods are shipped and stuff and things, you write the Commissioner General before the goods even get here. And they will require an article. This is one of the areas where your article of incorporation comes in, to make sure you are a registered legal non-profit entity or faith-based organization in Liberia. And then in some cases, like for school, the Ministry of Education also issues certificate of accreditation to make sure that that school is also what? Legally established in Liberia, and the Ministry of Education knows about that school. Because we have a whole lot of funny schools around here. Some of them not even doing what they're supposed to do. And they will come and ask for you to free. But you must be accredited by the Ministry of Education. And then he may ask you for your annual activities report. You know, you got to make a report at the end of the year. What do you do? What do you do? This type of thing and whatever. And also to ensure that you are paying your taxes. That's your PRT, not all your income, but the people that are working for you, that you are reporting the taxes that you're taking from them, you are paying. Those are the basic requirements. Okay? And then they will also ask for your bill of lading. Okay, the list of all the things that you are importing, because as the bishop said earlier, some of us have used these privileges, right? We put in our private cars, put in our private stuff, and we say it's the church or the school that's importing these goods. And many times, in some cases, people have been caught. So we want to get the list of everything that you bring into the country, and then we will be able to make sure that these goods are exempt. You will not be a faith-based organization and you bring in liquor in the country to sell. That does not align with your exempt practice, right? Yeah, it doesn't. So that's why we request a list, and then make sure that everything that you're capable of your school, notebooks and stuff, the things that school uses, we will know that these are exempt goods and that you are bringing. Next slide. Okay. Let me talk about this a little bit. Every individual in our country or businesses is supposed to have what we call tax identification number. How many of you got tax identification number?
Personal ones?
Yeah, personal one. Okay. I see maybe about 4 or 5 persons. Tax identification number. Just like your church has its own number, you need to get some. But also individuals are supposed to have tax identification number. Let me tell you, if you are working and you don't have tax identification number, it might be a little challenge when you come to LRA and say, I want an individual tax clearance. Because that tax identification number is the one that is used to credit you for the taxes that you pay to the government. Okay? Just like Social Security, right? If you don't have Social Security number the day you retire, it's going to be very difficult to get your information to see how much you contributed and how much you need to be getting every month. So if you are here and you don't have tax identification number or Social Security number, you need to start getting it today, or else it will affect you in the future. If you come to LRA,
those kids are paying with withholding tax, right? Those kids are paying the taxes for their company.
Yeah, the personal income tax.
Yeah, withholding tax.
Yeah, the withholding there, the withholding personal.
They want the team.
The team.
No, they get it from your office.
No, you can't get it from your office. You can get it through your office. Yeah, but the responsibility actually lies on you. But you need to, you can work with your office to get it. But you can come directly to LRA, and if you bring your passport size, one passport size photo and your national ID, or the bio page of your passport, in 15-20 minutes time, we can create you one, and you can, somebody's got to take responsibility for your own stuff, right? You can take that down to your employer and say, look, this is my tax is supposed to do. Employer is supposed to ensure that every individual that the employer has a tax identification. So my office, along with another office, we engage in that as well. If you want for us to issue you all your staff tax identification number, once they get all these documents, you call us, you can either deliver them, we produce, say, and bring it to you, or they can come there and receive it as well. It's free of charge.
Yeah,
there's no cost to it.
Yeah, one question.
Yes.
Zero
Yes.
tax level, zero tax payment. Zero filing.
The zero filing, right?
Zero filing.
Yes, you get zero filing.
Individual now, when you have a paying tax individually, if you don't have a job, you have to file anything individually.
No, your employer will file. Your employer will take it from you, and your employer will pay
You
it.
have to again,
If you now with that entity, this number is unique to you. You carry to any other entity you go into. Similar like social security number.
You don't have to pay anything.
No, you don't have to pay anything. All you know when you go to the next employer, you give the same number to them as, and this is how your benefit accumulates. Because if we issue a different number, then that's a problem. But this one number is unique to you for the rest of your life until the government decides that they want to change it or something. But it's unique to you and it's transferable from one entity to the other. Just like your social security number. Okay. So the team number I just talked about, you use it to pay your taxes, to get tax credit if you are filing, or contributions if you are filing. Like I said, people don't file, but if you are filing, you can use it to, get your tax credit for taxes that you pay to the churches or religious organizations. Also, you can use it to, you can sit in your home if you have a tax team number to see how much taxes you pay. Yeah. Because you have a tax account. Once we create the tax identification number, we also create a tax account for it. All right? And then you register. It can also be used to register your sole proprietorship. Now, if you are a tailor, to go and do an article of incorporation to register a sole proprietorship. That same number that you have, your individual team, can also be used to register that tailor, that tailor shop or little corner store that just your one business. All right, so that's what the team number is for too. You can also use that one team number to register your real property. Yeah, real property is, many people don't know, but there's tax imposed on real properties in Liberia if it is not exempt. So all the houses, how many people register paying property taxes? Let me put my hair out first. Okay, we're supposed to pay taxes on our real property every year. So it's good for us to talk about what government is not doing, but it's even more important to talk about what we are not doing. 90% or more of Liberians do not pay property tax, and property tax is a law in this country.
But are they not paying it to the council? Don't you have council there?
Council?
Like local council?
No. In Sierra Leone, they do have local council.
Okay, when we normally pay property tax.
Yeah, the property tax is paid to the national government.
Okay.
Yeah, in Sierra Leone, it's paid to local council. Yeah. But we are trying to go in that direction. We are starting with revenue sharing. The government is trying to make sure that taxes that are collected in the counties are shared with the government 50-50. So we are doing that in Magibi. We have gone to ground, and we are trying to go into the other counties as well. But yeah, in Sierra Leone, they are paid to council. Here, they are paid to the national government. And you can also use that to apply for tax clearance. If you don't have TIN number, we can't give you tax clearance. Because we will now be able to know whether you've been paying, at what point you start paying income tax. Somebody said, the moment you pay $1 or $2, it's not, they start taxing, it's not like that. But there are thresholds. But I'm not paid by an individual on a periodic basis. For his or her yearly salary. We say periodic because some people get paid every 2 weeks. Some people get paid every month. So it's not the same standard. So we say periodic basis based on the time that your institution or your organization pays. But it's the accumulation of your income that you pay your personal income tax for. So it says the sum of a person's income for the year for all economic activities. So the tax is imposed on your income that you earn throughout the year from whatever activities you engage in, from which you are deriving an income. So the PRT is calculated on the annual gross income. So from the very beginning, when you get somebody employ you and they say this your salary is $20,000, that's when the calculation is done. Okay, unless that amount changes, then whatever the number that if you wrap as your taxing, that's what you'll be paying every month. But sometimes you may experience differences because of exchange rate differences in Liberia, because the personal income tax is calculated on the gross income, but we're on Liberian dollar, using Liberian dollar. So when we try to convert it to the US, obviously because of the exchange rate, there may be a little fluctuation. and include all of your cash and non-cash benefits. Somebody say, what is cash and non-cash benefits? In other words, some of us workplaces where they give us $30 a month, let's say for scratch card, they give us $100, but you use it as you wish, you know, but they're not coming to check on who you call, who you didn't call, whatever. As a result, that's considered a non-cash benefit. Is you know is actually an income to you. It's just that it is not in cash. But already should include that as well. But the law says for the entire year you can exclude $100,000 of expenses for those kind of you know. So in other words, the scratch card, you can continue to receive scratch card and they can continue to accumulate the value. But when they exceed 100,000, then you start to pay taxes. As long as they don't exceed 100,000, it's not taxable to you. That's that. So this is, we will go through the threshold, we will not do the calculation, right? So here the law says if you make 70,000 LD a year or less, you pay no taxes. Okay? If you make 70,000 LD or less in a year, you pay no taxes. If you make 70,000 to 200,000 a year, right, you pay only 5% of that in taxes. 5% of that. If you make between 70,000 and 200,000. Okay, you pay 5% of excess over what? 70,000. That means we will take the 200,000, we minus 70,000, and then the balance is the only one to pay taxes on. Is that clear? No? Okay, let's go on. If you make 70,000 or less, you pay 0 tax. That's a year now, that's not every month. Remember that. If you make 70,000 to 200,000 a year, you will pay 5% of excess over 70. 5% of excess over 70 means we will take the 200,000 and minus 70,000. What is that? 130, right? Then you will only pay 5% on that 130. Got it clear? Who didn't get it? Well, don't be ashamed you didn't get it. All right. Then the third bracket says if you make 200,000 to 800,000 LD in a year, your monthly taxes will be 6,500. That's fixed. We will take that first off. That first, we take that and put it in the cup. Then plus 15% of excess over 200. So let's assume you were making 800,000 a year. The first thing we do, we take 6,500. You know, that's a fixed amount that we take from that salary. Then plus 15% of excess over 200. That means we take the 800,000 minus 200,000, that would be 600,000, and then we assess the 15% on that.
So in the breakdown of the salary or the income,
Yeah.
you have health,
You have what?
medical,
Yeah.
you have transportation, you have rent.
Uh-huh.
All right, all into that 200,000. Will you deduct any whole or the
Well, we don't know that. It's your institution that have to set that out and pay you that accordingly. All we know, what is reported to us as your income by your institution, that's what we go by. We don't, there's no way that we know within that 800,000 that they included health, they included transportation.
You mentioned the payroll now, because you requested the payroll.
Right.
They didn't mention the payroll.
Right.
So you are going to be looking at only the one that ascribed to the salary they accept. Instead of the medical, the criminal, will be reflected, right?
In most cases, in our economy, in most cases, they do not include those in your salary, like that, or insurance. In most companies will pay for those, okay, outside of their salary. There are few organizations that will say, maybe contractors, in most cases it will not be regular employees. It will be contractors that will sign a contract and they say, oh, this is your contract amount, and within your contract amount, this is for health, this is for insurance. But regular employees that work for entity, in most cases, they don't set those separate. They will pay your salary and they will do your health separately. Yes.
It's not done that way.
No, I'm
Then for your end now, I feel that any questions you are asking for the first question about that.
okay.
some as now, you see that they pass, the LRA charge taxes all those amounts. Okay? In the salary is inclusive, all the portion I just mentioned. The company do not pay that, they pay to involve anything, divided in the salary.
Yeah,
Okay?
my point is, the list that your employer sent to us, it doesn't have place for health, it doesn't have place for insurance, it doesn't have anything like that. The form only asks for your salary. So if my employer sends my name to LRA and say John Brown makes 800,000, we know that's salary because it's in the salary line. There's no line on the form that employers submit to LRA that has insurance, transportation, or something. No, we only want the salary. So that's what I'm saying. Your employer has to make sure that that's deducted before they submit your payroll to us. But we are only looking at your salary. Whatever is committed to us, we consider it as your salary. Can we move forward? No, great. Yes.
Again, after the presentation, we'll ask questions. We might be longer.
So the tax, we have 4 brackets,
Let her
right?
ask this question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, the personal income tax you're talking about, like, I am employed by this hotel
Yeah,
full time.
yeah,
And then I got a contract from the particular hotel again, just part time.
right.
When I give my TI, whatever you call it.
Your tax identification number.
Yes, I give that number, and this hotel is paying for me, I'm paying, now. With that other hotel, take, they will collect taxes from me again.
Obviously, you earn it, that's income you earn.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's what we said, yeah, it's calculated on your gross earnings.
You are eating from 2 points.
Yeah, exactly. You eat for 2 months, you have to pay for 2 months. So, in Accra, we have 4 tax brackets. The last bracket is what we call bracket 4, right? It's there. It says 800,000 or above. Above will mean even if you're making billions, right? 800,000 and above, your tax is 96,500. We take that first and put it down. That's your fix. And then it says plus 25% of excess over 800,000. So let's assume you were making $1 million. The first thing we do is to take that 6,500. Then we take that 1 million and minus what? 800,000. You are left with 200,000. And then that 200,000 is taxed at 25%. Somebody talk about the progressive nature of our income tax system. And there were a lot of stress on that, both from the bishop and whatever. But that's really what an upfront tax system is. It is actually progressive. The more you earn, the more you pay. And this one really demonstrates that as well. Yes, Reverend Talas.
So the 2 large categories. Where do you get the 6,500? Where do you get it to 6,500? Is that constant?
Yes, that is considered as by law.
Oh, by law?
Yes, anything you see here is law. We don't sit down one day and just decide to change rate. That's all. This is in the Labrador Revenue Code. Okay, yes. Every number that you see here is in the Labrador Revenue Code.
Okay, I thought you formulated.
Oh, no.
Why some people can cook data?
No, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. This is by law. If you get, I'm sorry I didn't read the book. It's a whole book almost like the size of my black over there. There's the Labrador Revenue Code.
Do you have a flyer, 5 sheet that can just tomorrow or the next?
Tomorrow we'll be giving you, we got a PRT.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we will be giving you some flyers that has to do with real property tax and also this PRT rate.
You give us the possibility for advocacy.
Yeah.
The father just said, those who are constant, they already died. So now and it's impacting us now.
Yes.
That's why we don't want you guys to retire. We want people to retire at the age of 85. Because your laws are impacting us, we have to continue to live and work.
Well, our laws. But the
Our laws.
representatives, they represent you, they represent
I
you.
agree, I agree.
Even I'm administering this, right?
Yes.
I'm not the one who set this rate. It's who you appointed to go represent you and who are appointed to go represent, elected to go represent you. So that's why I was saying, Bishop, that maybe next time we'll have forums like this, it would really be good to invite some of our lawmakers, because they are the ones that make the law. It's not LRA. We do the implement. Our is to implement the law as it's promulgated in the House of, in our House. Huh?
No, go ahead.
But you know, John, you know the truth.
They can't do from community room.
The community, we don't even have community rooms at our place. They call us to go, sometimes they ask us questions and so forth, we answer their questions. Sometimes they ask for expert opinion, we provide to them. But in the end, they are the one that promulgate the law.
Commissioner?
Yes.
I would beg for to just represent here or lawmaker here. Or be the one that know it.
No, but it would be good for them to listen to you. No, they may not know the question, but they will know your heart, where your heart is leading, and what are the issues that you feel very strongly about. And maybe in some way or form, they may have some consideration, for that as well. And sometimes even when they are campaigning, those are, when they come to your churches or whatever, those are things questions that we can ask them. But we have to be abreast of the law, like the information before we can really engage them. Next slide. So this, for those of you who have schools, right? So for teachers and school administrator, the calculation of the PRT, again, the same way, is on the annual income. But it's a projection because we know that some schools have only employment for 10 months out of the 12 months. So for the most part, we take their salary from the beginning and we project it over 12 months. Okay, we project it over 12 months. So we know that some are on contract for 11 months, some are on contract for 10 months or so. But it's projected over 12 months. It doesn't really change the amount that they pay. It just changes the format of the calculation for the most part. Okay. So when we talk about employee, we have to distinguish between the contract employee versus independent contractor. And somebody and myself were talking earlier about withholding the service tax. So for contract employees versus independent contract employee is on a company payroll. We hire people, we say they are contractors, but they are on our payroll. We are paying them from our payroll. We control when they come to work. We control when they leave. Everything, we supervise them in other words. Those are contract employees. As opposed to independent contractors, those, we do not control their hour. For example, if I get somebody to paint this hall, we come and look and say, this is how I want to paint it. I will not control when they come in, how they do their job or monitor them. I'm only looking to see if they told me 2 weeks will be finished with your paint. After the 2 weeks, I will come and inspect. If everything is correct, I pay them their money. Those are independent contractors. But when you have people working with you and you control their hours, you supervise them, they are contract employees. I wanted to classify that. So this classified worker can result in bad taxes, fine penalty, and legal dispute. Because why? Contract employees are on payroll. They are subjected to the PRT table, the table that are just, but independent contractors are not. Okay? They are not. So that's the difference. We're supposed to wait more than 10% from them, especially if they are, they are not established company, they have not shown you tax clearance and so forth. Those are independent contractors, they are not under your control. So again, these are just some of the differences. It says the contract employee, they fall under the personal income tax table, the table that we just went through. And if an independent contractor, on the other hand, is supposed to be withholding, if they are resident, 10%, if they are non-resident, 15% from the contracts that they take on with you. When they have their tax clearance, they are registered, they are legal entity in Liberia, they can be subjected either 2% or the 4%, they can argue that and say, you pay us, we pay our taxes, but they have to show that they pay their taxes. I think that's the last one, right? This is our next slide. We have an example if you want to, I can go through it. The table just show, just slide through it. I'll just show them if they want it. So, for example, we want to use somebody who's making $300 and calculate their taxes, and then you could really understand how the income tax works if you have the time. Do you have the time? Can we do it? All right, very good. Okay. So, go back. So, let's assume, write it down, because I want to follow this process. Follow it. Let's assume somebody is making $300 a month. And I want to know how much my taxes would be at the end of every month. Okay, that's the example we are setting up here. Okay, the person is making $300 a month, and we want to know how much you should be paying every month for personal income tax, the PIT. That's right. So, the first thing we want to do, because we said the tax is calculated on your annual gross, right? So the first thing we want to do is to see if somebody is making $300, to see how much they are making annually. And the only way we can get that is to multiply that 300 by 12 months. We got that part, right? So the person annual gross now is what? 3,600. The second step is to say, okay, the 3,600, we know that our table, the table that we're looking at is in Liberian dollar. It's not in US dollar. So we now have to convert this 3,600 into Liberian dollar. And let's assume that we're doing that today, and today the rate is 198.71. We got that part, right? So we take 3,000 multiplied by the 198.71 and give us what? 715,356. That means that 3,600, we have converted it into what? Liberian dollar. So instead of 3,600, the person is now making $715,356 a year. That's their annual gross income in Liberian dollar. We got that part? Yeah. Everybody? Yes. All right. Next one. So the next thing we want to do is say, okay, so where does this person belong on this table here? Anybody can tell me? Which bracket do they belong? Number two. We give you awards here. Number three. Everybody agree number three? Okay. All right. Jackie, please get all the awards ready. We're going to ask the question. So who was say three? Who was say three? 9, 10. Who was say 4? I think he back up. He said 4. My friend back there back up from 2. Okay, 2. All right. Anyone that said 4, anyone that said 2, or anyone that said 1, you are wrong. The person belongs in 3. Because it says what? If you make 200,000 to 800,000, and the amount is what? 753.56, right? So that belongs in the third bracket. Now, but this is very critical. What I want to do in the third bracket, what it says the tax is 6,500. So write that down. Just write that down on a piece of paper, because after today you'll be able to explain your employee how the taxes are calculated, depending on the bracket that they belong. So we take the 6,500, we keep it on the side. Just remember that we'll go to the calculation. And then we said the excess of over 200,000. So if the person makes 715,356, we're going to subtract 200 from that and assess the what? The 15% on that. So it will be the 6,500 plus 715,356 minus 200 times 15%. Okay, so let's go to the calculation and say then you will see it visibly. All right. Now that we know. So here we go. So we said the person annual gross is what? 715,356, right? Okay. So to determine the excess, we take the 715,356 and minus what? The 200. You remember in that bracket you say excess over 200, right? So the 715,356 minus the 200 leaves us what? 515,356. But remember, we got the 6,500 as the fixed amount. Now, this excess now is the one we're going to multiply by what? The 15%. We got it? Anybody confused? Don't be ashamed. That's my class, you know. Sometimes you get catch it the first time.
Have you taken the 6,500 out?
No.
Not yet.
So what we did was, the one out there is just the conversion, the 3,000 we converted. The third bracket says, in order to get the tax, you got the 6,500 fixed right there, plus excess over 200, we must assess the 15% on that. So we take the 715,356 minus the 200. Now, that 515,356 is the one that we're going to multiply by 15%. That's the excess. Do we have that? Oh man,
It's fair.
yeah, it's fair. Okay, nice slide. Okay, now listen carefully. So in this case, remember the 6,500 was fixed, right? That's the fixed tax for anybody that belongs to that bracket. The 15% of excess over 200, that's what we calculated. So it would now be 15% times the 515,356. Who know how we got to the 515,356? From very good. We subtracted the 200 from the 715,356. So that's the excess right there, 515,356. Then we multiply that, that's what we multiply that by about 15%. Because it says 6,500 fixed plus excess over 200,000. So now, if you come to the next line, that is the fixed amount, it's always paid 6,500. The 15% of 515,356 is what? It's $77,304. $303.40. Right? So now we got our yearly tax now. We got a fixed amount, and then we got a 15% of excess over 200. So we take the fixed amount, 6,500 plus the 77,303. Our yearly tax is $83,803.40. That's the yearly tax, right? That's not monthly tax, that's yearly tax. Now let's go to the next slide. So in order to know how much we're supposed to pay every month, we will take the yearly tax, 83,803.40 divided by 12 months. So our monthly PRT that we pay is $6,983.62. $6,983.62. If that person was being paid in Liberian dollar, that's what they would be paying. Somebody who making $300,000 when you compare it, give the 15 something, they wouldn't be paying $6,983.62. But we know from the beginning, we said the person was being paid what? In US dollars. They were being paid what? $300, right? They were yes. So now we have to come back again now and convert the 6,983.62 into US dollar. And we do that by dividing by the same rate that we used from the beginning, which is the 198.71. So the person who makes $300 US in Liberia will pay $35.14 a month. Yeah, every month they get 300, but their tax is $35.14 a month. That they pay on $300. Now let's talk. Is that plenty money or not? For taxes a month for making $300. It's relative, right? Right. Okay.
It's more than 10%. Before that, it's not more than 10%.
No, it's not. It's not more than 10%. It's more than 10%. More than 10% of 300 is what?
It's 30.
It's 30. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit more. Yeah.
Are you chopping that off from somebody's own money? And the government chopping that off from somebody's own money?
But I'm not sure what you call government chopping. Government don't, you know, I'm not sure because I think we forget that regardless of how limited it is right now, government funds go towards infrastructure.
Well, that is why it is the responsibility of the citizens, because since the citizens are paying, even government workers.
Absolutely. But that's what citizens are supposed to do. Because the government worker provides services to citizens. So the citizens supposed to pay the government workers. You cannot have medical doctors in the hospital that will be paid by individuals. Because you can't afford it. Okay, government has the picture. You know, one of the things I observe in our country is this. When you open the line on the rate, paying their property taxes. Okay, but the law is the law.
But we also invade it to tax, we also invade.
Yes, that we are paying, that we have that national obligation. And our soul can say, I have fulfilled my obligation to the government and I have every right to go, to go against the government for not doing what it's supposed to do. I beg you. Yeah, please don't hold me in contempt, right? Yeah, please. But I'll be very hard pressed to find, right? I'll be hard pressed to find somebody who have said they have met up with all their tax obligations to this country. You know? And many times we receive aid from other countries, it didn't come from nowhere, that the citizens of those countries, they've made a commitment, a solemn obligation to pay their taxes to their government. So we have to do the same thing. We can't always be receiving from them. We don't even have enough to care for ourselves before we can even give them. You know, so as much as we talk about government not doing this, government not doing it, we need to search our own soul. Are we doing our part?
Thank you.
Okay.
So,
yes.
The Holy Bible is law also. The higher law. The higher law.
Yes.
It says you should pay 10% also.
Yeah.
So the 10% of the 300, $30 plus your own 35.
No, I think you are misquoting scripture. That law, the 10% law, in fact, that's why I say pay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, right? Thank you, Lord. That 10% has to do with your honor to the church, your honor to the faith.
So you didn't wait for me to finish.
Okay.
Sorry. So now, which is $30.
Right.
I mean, to $35.
Right.
Caesar 35.
Okay.
Then to God 30.
Right.
That's 65.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I know a church that already taking 4% already from my salary as my contribution to the church.
Okay.
So that 4%, if you take it from the 300, initially that would be around $12 around it.
Okay.
So 65 plus 12 is 77 from my 300. So before I get home, I'm carrying only $200.
Okay.
And they can't even reach.
Okay.
So I beg you lawmakers, I want you to give an example of what you did on my 300. I want you to give an example of the exercise on their $1 million, so then I can go after them too. Because you did the exercise on my pitiful 300.
Correct.
And those people who made the law and made it constant.
If you have the time, we'll go through it.
We can do it tomorrow.
Okay.
But I want to see, there has to be a lot of vote.
You got to calculate it. We can go through it. But again, I will assure you that it's much more, much more than that one. They probably, some of them are probably not for $3,000 in taxes. Trust me. Because the income taxes. Oh, yes. Absolutely. We use this example to demonstrate to you if somebody is earning $17,000, right? How much they pay in taxes every month. In fact, when we go home, he would do all the calculations. So, okay, he would do the calculation. You have about 5 minutes, can we go through it?
Sure.
Yeah, put 17,000. Somebody said, I don't know how much they make, but somebody said they make 17,000. So we do 17,000. All right, so let's use 17,000. Okay.
Also, USD.
Yeah, the USD. So the first thing is we want to convert that 17,000 into Labrador, just like we did with the other one, right? Okay.
Comes up to here, 3,378,000.
All right. So you see it right there, right? So we converted the what? The 17,000 USD, right? We converted to Labrador and it comes up to $3,378,070 a month.
Oh!
Follow it now, you wanted to know Reverend John. All right? So, a month, then we need to find 17,000 LD. We convert it, it comes up to 3 million. USD, I'm sorry. We convert it, it comes up to $3,378,070 a month in Labrador. All right? So the next thing we want in that bracket, the 96,500 is fixed. We put that one down, so just write down on your paper and keep it at 96,500. But then it says what? It says, yes, it says 25% of excess over what? 800,000. We got that back? So now what we're going to do, we're going to take that 800,000 from what? The 40,536,840, and what do we get there?
39,736,840.
So, yeah, so that amount is what we're going to apply the what? The 25% of. See, somebody's really following. Brother John, you don't want to follow, but you follow.
I'm following it, I love it.
Okay, so it comes up to 39,736,840. When we apply the 25% to that, what do we get?
9,934,25.
That's the taxes for the 25%. But we remember we said what? We have a lump sum amount, fixed amount of what? 96,500. So when we add those two, they come up to what?
10,030,710.
So that's what they pay in taxes for the year. Okay, for the year, they pay 10,030,710. But we have to divide that by what? By 12, because they get paid on a monthly basis, right? So when we do the division, what do we get to?
$835,892.50 LD.
That's what they pay every month. $11. Then we get all the what? Break that into what? US dollar, and what do we get?
$4,206.
That's what they pay, $4,206 a month on a $17,000 USD salary.
I heard something. I heard something. Go back for that 4,000 to allowances.
No, okay. I'm talking about salaries. You talk about.
I agree with you.
Right.
This is what they pay.
Right.
On the board.
Right.
But then in their offices, they go back for the same money from the government through allowances.
No, there are benefits.
Benefits.
Any position has benefits that are separate from your salary.
70,000 already?
What I don't know, I can only talk about what I know, is the salary. Okay? I don't know the benefit that they are entitled. I don't even know what benefit you are entitled to in the church.
And that one is being deducted by the Minister of Finance.
Yes.
It doesn't get to you.
No, it gets to me, it's related to me in terms of what? Tax, they related to us in taxes. Yeah, they take it from there. They will take it from there and remit it to the LRA in taxes. As far as the benefit, I don't know all the benefit they are entitled to, what they get, gasoline and stuff and whatever. It's 17,000, that person will be paying $4,206. That's the progressive nature of our tax system. And that works actually for the poor in a way, but it has to be redistributed in the right way for them to benefit from it. I think that's the key. How do we take from the rich and how do we distribute it to the most benefited or support the poor? I think that's where we really need to work hard to do. But they pay the taxes. The progressive nature is that the more you earn, the more you pay.
Yes,
pay as good. That's right. Pay as good. All right. I think that completes. Yes.
Yes, Commissioner, my question is when we got the first calculation, the total was like 10%. Then also, I don't know if you, yes, of the cumulative annual. When also, I don't know if you have your, and I expect you have goods and services tax. Every time we go and purchase anything, you pay also something between 10 and 15. Let's say I'm a Christian, so that goes to 20. I'm a Christian, because majority of our earnings at this low level is spent on goods and services. As a Christian, you have to pay 10% to your church, making 30%. How can you survive? Let me answer.
I want you to take the Christian part because we are all of different denominations.
No, I'm just saying now for the Christian,
right?
How are you expected to fulfill all your legal tax requirements and your religious financial obligation are going to be able to survive on something like 70%? When 30 is gone 10 to religious and 20 to government. How are you going to be able to manage your family on 70% of your earnings?
How are you going to
manage your family? Then secondly, what is the government responsibility for when you are contributing your full tax obligation to have cumulative returns? What do you benefit from government seeing that you are committing all of this in terms of social amenities? Yes, and all of that.
I've just told you. I don't know about Sierra Leone where you come from. In this country, there's no tax-paying culture.
Yes.
If everybody, I'm guaranteed that even this tax rate will go down considerably if everyone was paying their taxes. There's no way that 20% or 30% of the population can pay taxes to support 70% that are not paying taxes. That's one of our problems in Africa, especially in our country here in Liberia. I just asked a question here. I said, who are paying their property tax? How many hands you saw?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say only 1% or 2% sitting here are paying their property taxes. Are you expecting those 2% of taxpayers to support the other one? 98% is not conceivable.
Yes, I know, sir.
Yes. And that's where
unrealistic nature, if you want to fulfill all, you might have to go through a lot of pain, considering that you are not earning much. For those that are earning much, we understand. They can really that you are asking for the.
But even those that are earning much, they are still not able to pay. Even let's assume 10% of our population were earning more. That 10% is not going to be able to provide social services for the other 80%. It's not possible. We all have to contribute our share. Whether it's just $1 that you're supposed to pay in taxes. If all of us can commit to paying that $1 or $2 or $3, then our revenue envelope will grow. And these taxes, even the rate, as low as they may be or not, they will come down. Because when you have more people paying, you got more people can reduce the tax rate. That's our brain in this country here.
It's almost the same over to us, sir. We share common initiatives and government projection. And I think if we maybe can look at those, that's why you're asking about team, how much of us have it. Like for me, I don't receive salary, I've not received salary for many years. How can I have team? We live like on what we call Mamikuta. Maybe you do.
Yeah. You are either buying goods or services or you do product.
Yeah, I know.
Those are the three endeavors when you initiate mediation, you are not able to pay taxes.
Yes, sir.
The team number, I like the US. The way they do it, when you are born in the hospital, you get your number. They call it Social Security used to buy your tax difference and all your business. In Liberia, we are not there yet at home, and that number serves for everything. And I think that's what they are trying to do with the national registration number and stuff like that. They had a basic step, and I think they are going back to kind of recollect it. But that's the way to go. Because if you don't have TIN number, you are, even if you pay taxes, you are not really known as a taxpayer when you don't have tax identification number.
Yes. I think in Africa, that is why we are less at the back. I think the culture of paying tax, we don't have it. The problem here is like in Sierra Leone, there is one who called the local tax, which does 5,000 euros. 5,000. Fixed amount is 5,000. And there, when you pay, they will give you the receipt. Maybe a family of how many will use that one receipt? Now that 5,000 is for one person. It's one person.
You're right.
Maybe I'm hailing from a ruling home. Okay, maternal and paternal, there I normally pay, but where I reside in both, I don't pay that 5,000. When I my vehicle, they don't stop me. You understand? So all these sort of things, I think it really helps to develop even the council, the local councils. But we are not used to it. I think the culture of paying taxes, like before last week, our hall was shut down by NRA because they said we did not pay their business tax. They went and placed padlock. So they called me. I said break the padlock. They said don't do that. Then I said, I said, but these people are not putting the film. Yes. So later now, so I called the young man who closed the place. When he explained to me, then I told my finance officer, okay, go now and pay. But because I was not informed, and if they really, sometimes if they are communicating well, people can pay. People, we have responsibility, we can pay. But if you are not sensitized to people, they will not pay.
Yeah.
That is the thing.
I agree with you that we have a long way to go in terms of information dissemination, especially tax information. But I can also say that we reach a lot of people with tax information, but just developing that culture. If anybody knows Donald Trump, he's reaching here all over the place. But the last thing he will ever do is to touch the Internal Revenue Service. That's the tax collection agency. Nobody messes with them. Okay? Nobody. I don't care who you are, the president, whoever in the US, they can't touch them. All the comment he can be making, none of you have heard him talk about the Internal Revenue Service. Because what? They honor the ideal of taxation. The honor is everybody commit to it. You like it or not, you will pay. And the last thing you want to do is to get in trouble with the IRS.
Commissioner, you have said it already.
Yes.
So all truth is parallel. Those people in the States or in UK, when you pay your money, you see what they will say.
You got it. Wait, let you talk. You got it right. You say when you pay. Right? Wait. But our own, we wanted the reverse. We want the government to do it.
No, that's what I'm coming. Now the problem with Africa, even when you pay, the services are not provided. I'll give you an example. Before I came here, I was telling Reverend Jala, our electricity is now prepaid. We paid before the suppliers. Even when we pay 7 days, no electricity. The service is not there. 7 days, I have no electricity in my house. Even when we pay, the water provide the service.
I can tell you about who the electricity.
No, wait, I'm telling you, I'm coming. Let me tell you this. Even when you pay, there's no electricity for 7 days before I came. I was telling you. And he said, and he was provoking me that we have sold our electricity to British. And I told him, you Nigerians, you have sold your road to the Americans. So the point I'm making, all truth is valid. If we are paying our taxes, we must enjoy the facility, the amenities, social amenities. Everybody in Africa, in our country now, when they build a house, they must dig a borehole. Because the pipe water is not available. Zero. And we have Salwako, Goma Valley, Ministry of Water Resources, all kinds of agencies they are creating. And you see,
not even your borehole, you want to tax it.
They want to tax it again. They will not tell you must pay tax for your borehole. Let me tell you this. When we looked at the National Development Plan for the country, they put 3.4% of the national budget for health. And in the same year, 1.7% of that money is spent on administration. And that's half of the budget. So how can they run a whole year, a whole country on 1.7% for the whole health system? It will not be enough. So if they can cut down on some of these useless expenses, buying cars, take for instance the police, we give them money, they bought cars. The cars are supposed to patrol the street to fight crime and road offenses. Now they take those cars to go to they take their girlfriends to the provinces, they take their mother-in-laws to funerals up country, and it is a government failure and paying the car. When the car is spoiled, they take taxpayers' money to go and repair it. So if we the citizens are seeing those things, it's a problem. But on the same token, let me finish. On the same token, for every law, everything that people violate, there's a law. The greatest problem with us in Africa, we don't enforce the laws. We don't enforce the laws. Like his store was closed, He had to go and pay. So if you know that this is not right, if the law catch you, you go and pay. You go and fulfill your obligation. But we don't enforce this law because once they catch somebody, he takes his call and calls some big man somewhere, and they say, "Oh, this is my boy, leave him," and he goes his way.
Oh, because they freed me yesterday. I was saying that
He had a problem. He just played some calls and he left him.
for 2 hours. They said I should pay I should deposit $3,000 before crossing. Then when I'm going back, they'll give me my I said, even where I'm coming, I only have how many dollars in my pocket? And we are talking about $3,000. I said, $3,000, is it like $3,000?
So that's what you did.
So these are some of the things.
Bishop, tell us what you did for you to be
I made several phone calls.
Let it go. That's the problem.
Somebody said it's not really
But it boils down, it boils down to what you just said, right? It's about enforcing the laws. That's the problem we have, especially in Liberia. The electricity you're talking about, right? You have people paying. Other people not paying. So the people who pay, their resources is going to finance people who not paying. So as a result, the company runs out of money to provide the services that we need. So part of the problem is us, as citizens. That's the whole point here.
This government is the biggest our country. The accountant in the Ministry of Energy was on TV. He said, I went to Ghana, I went to Gambia. The governments of Ghana and Gambia do not owe a dime for electricity. But in my country, 450 billion is owed for electricity.
They don't pay.
450 billion. Why can the government collect their electricity money and pay?
And that's what I'm saying.
So we are paying for
It's
that.
us as citizens, that includes government or, whoever.
Anyway, this is
We are our own government. We don't enforce it.
When we were speaking, I was kind of laughing my heart. Sorry for that. The reason is, when you're not gathering government, you get all the ideas. You say all these things. But as soon as you get in government, you follow the same trend. Alright?
Like a footballer
And the reason is, like, people will not change, or people will not change when they don't know Jesus comes. Why?
We will change value. We will change value.
The reason I'm
We
saying
will
this,
change,
right?
we'll fight.
Excuse me, the reason I'm saying this, you will enter our office. When you leave from your house, or before you get in our office, you have all the good ideas and the strict things you want to do. When you enter the office, but now person in that office, they are corrupt. You're the only person that want to change that. It's difficult. Alright? When you try to force it, your life is at stake. So at the end of the day, you say, well, let me just flow through. That's what happened in this country. Alright? Our people, they call the boom. They call it flesh, and they all got done. And we call the boom. It's difficult, but that's a real thing. So every one of us, if he says they lie, he go there. What happened there? So there's a real thing. It's difficult to be changed.
So if that's the case, then
we are responsible.
we expect to shape everything of government. Who works in government? That's us. It's us. Go ahead.
I think I have.
Let's have a quiet. Let's listen to the people who have not spoken to them.
The man from Guinea want to talk.
Yeah, I think I have.
Hello, my people, please.
I have different. I want to come from different perspectives. Yeah, I'm saying I want to come from different perspectives because I want to believe that when we more talk about what the government is not doing, I want to support you to say we should also talk about what
we are not doing as citizens. Because in my little age, what I've understood is that we don't want to be imposed what we should do, so that the country may be better. But we want to sit so that others will do it for us. I have listened to service. We love taking example of the USA, of the UK, but we fail to realize maybe that over there, as you said, children are born, raised in the mind to be obligated to the policy that they have.
Yes.
But I can challenge us in our villages here. They don't want to listen to that. I don't know about Nigeria boys, I don't know about Sierra Leone. I know about Guinea. And I come from a rural area. As you may all know, Secretary had a very tax system, very higher tax system. You know, that makes most of the Guineans to flee to come to Liberia. Some have even stayed to Liberia now because Liberia never returned back to Guinea. People used to bust Pakana to pay tax. They said if you don't have money, you should pay with what you're able to get. If you can get rice, you pay tax with rice. But at that time, actually things were like good for Guinea than now. To really be realistic, things were like good that then than now. Things that the government was, or what the government realized, or what they done at that time, is no more like now. What I want to say is, as church leaders, normally with this kind of, because I've been sitting down since we've been here, I've been thinking how and when can we get this to Guinea? But I really don't want it to be to the high level like it is supposed to go down to the people down there. Those who supposed to know that they are the supporting hand of the government. And also, we need to look at the two sides. The government who are in there, because we are so much corrupt in our mind, that's why when we get to government position, we do our own there. Yeah, if we are not there, but we say this person is not doing this person is not doing this. Unfortunately, when we get there, we do the same. Because we need to have, I think we need to have the love of our country, the love of developing our country. Yeah, of those people who really want to support what the government does, but also the citizens also what they're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you made some very, very insightful comments. Yeah, so taxation is a national obligation. It is a solemn duty. It is how we show loyalty to our country. Let me take it here, he said, and then we'll come to class.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say that maybe when we go a little back to the history of taxation in these different countries, it might help us. How did we become non-compliant citizens? If you look at the taxation history, especially of our country, there was a time when people pay hot taxes, they pay hair tax, right? But the compliance nature became a problem. So even in the villages, people pay these property taxes, but they weren't paying them under duress. Now, if the government and the people are to work together so that we can pay the taxes as we should, I really believe that we should pay taxes. I think that what we need to do is find ways that we can work together to first of all empower the citizenship or citizenry. It's almost like a pastor who says to this congregation, you bring tithe, bring offering, bring offering. And I always tell pastors, do you stop first to say, what are you doing? Have you enabled them? Have you capacitated them so they can earn and bring? So it would not be fair for any government to tell its people to pay taxes when that government does not provide the enabling environment for the people to work to earn the taxes. I believe in, I personally, I've always believed in a very small government and a large middle class entrepreneurial situation. And I think about the burden of taxation and development that countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone have is we believe in large, tall governments that do not create revenue or do not create finance, and so they can't take care of what they are supposed to do. But we also, as citizens, we have a burden to bear. We should do our part. And I think a dialogue like this should encourage us as church leaders to go back to our people and tell them, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. The one that doesn't belong to Caesar, then give it to God. Then you take your own. Now, that message has to go down. And I think what we need to do is to work how we will get it to our people. If the Europeans, Americans, and the Westerners can do it, I don't see why we can't do it. I don't honestly see why we can't do it. And this is why when we continue to go like this, they always say the Africans are like this, the Africans are like that. The Africans are not any worse off than any other human beings. Is